You're listening to the Everyday Legends podcast, the show that is dedicated to helping everyday men build legendary relationships with yourself, your partner, and your world. I'm your host, Mike Campbell, and the aim of this podcast is simple: to help you navigate life with more clarity, more confidence, and purpose-driven action, with plenty of stories, a load of lessons, and some loving straight talk. So let's get started. JuVan, welcome to the show, brother. It is very exciting, actually, for me to have you here.
Bro, it's you already know. You already know. I got a lot of energy in me. I'm ready to really just pour it all out. So
yeah, beautiful.
Got a big bucket.
You do have a big bucket. Okay, so I've spoken to the intro a little bit here, and some of my audience will know you. Some will know you very well. Some will quite likely not know you at all. I know you on a level, but of course, how can you really know another individual when we're all still figuring our own stuff out, right? So where I want to start is that I think it's a simple, but it's potentially a very daunting and challenging question. I know it is for a lot of men. And so that is, who are you? But I'll actually put the words to it. Who is JuVan Langford?
In a nutshell, I think I believe, I trust that I am a vulnerable, authentic, and powerful leader. I think life has given me so many beautiful opportunities to fall deeper and dive deeper into vulnerability. I think authenticity has been one of my greatest challenges because I had a very colorful beginning to life, and I often had to adjust and adapt and manipulate myself in order to fit within the context of an environment. And so I'm just learning now as a man what it means to be me, my voice, my thoughts, my feelings, my emotions, and powerful. I've sat in my pain for years, and I'm in the process of learning what it means to stand in my power with my voice, with my body, with my energy, with my vision. And so those are the areas that I'm all working on and through. And I would describe myself as that because that's where the energy and the vibration I'm putting out there is focused in those areas.
Beautiful. So thank you for sharing that. So you said in there, one of the challenges long-term perhaps has been around authenticity and speaking to your colorful past. So how has that been a challenge? What's led to that being a challenge for you, do you think? Because I certainly know that I see that in a lot of men, authenticity is a challenge, but how we get to that is all different, right?
Yeah, authenticity, I think it's not a destination. It's more like a constant and continuous initiation. Because with more information, you can take greater action. And each day, as I have conversations like this with you and other leaders in the men's space and friends and family, I'm learning more about myself through the experiences of others. And with that information, I get to go back and sit with it and chew on it and tear it apart and look and find a deeper truth in that. And each day, I feel very fortunate to be in a relationship with people who are willing to be a mirror and willing to hold space for me to grow and to stretch. Like yourself, we've had plenty of these conversations, Mike. And with that information, I'm able to be exquisitely honest with myself and to peel the layers. I often think of it, if you have like a piece of paper and you write the word truth in the middle, and then you crumple it up and just scrunch it and you throw your elbow on it and you fall on it with, with your back and you step on it with your feet. That's what it means to be a human. To go through things and to take the journey of dusting off that piece of paper and peeling back as much as you can each day to get closer to the truth of who you are. And so for me, I'm not afraid to ask for support from people to help me peel back those layers anymore. And so authenticity, I see it as something that is a continuum. I see it as a process. And for so long, I just wanted to get to the truth. Just open it, just pull it apart.
Just give it to me.
Right? Give it to me. And now I just have fallen in love with each day living from a place of curiosity of who's going to help me today, who's going to support me today, who's going to peel back, who's going to grab my hand, who's going to dust off some of this, this residue that is keeping me from my truth. And it's been such a tremendous journey, bro. Such a journey.
So some of the language you're using there is, now I do that and so on. So clearly that hasn't always been the case. Can you talk us through, how you got to that willingness and that curiosity? And what was on the other side of that?
Well, I guess it all begins from childhood, like most things. Some broad strokes of my story, Mike,
Please.
is, losing my dad as a young kid. I was 3 years old. He passed away of leukemia. I was left to a mother who was really too young of a child herself to be raising kids, and resulted in me being legally adopted. My mother struggled with drugs and alcohol early on. And so with those factors and many others, I had a lot of trouble and trauma to face. And I think over time, I found creative ways to pretend as if there was nothing wrong. I found creative ways to fit in and not to be a problem in school or around family or friends. And so I shrunk physically, emotionally, spiritually, and I'm just learning to stand erect, to speak direct, to live a bigger life, and to be the fullest expression of myself, and to be able to reach each layer and level of emotionality. Like I've really shrunk the range of emotions that I'm able to access. And now today and each day that goes on, I'm able to reach a little bit more, a little bit further, because quite frankly, conversations like this,
Yeah. So was there a period, because, you said before, I sat in my pain for a long time and now I'm learning to stand in my power. So, was there a period, was there an incident, was there people specifically, a moment in your life where there was a bit of a realization and a desire to change? Because I'm assuming when you were sitting in your pain, there wasn't this instantaneous, oh, I need to stand in my power, or you didn't have that level of understanding in that moment. So can you talk us through your understanding of it?
Absolutely. I think every man has a different point in his life, but at some point we hope that a man realizes that what I'm doing, who I'm being, is no longer working. I had a lot of trouble connecting with men early on, developing healthy male friendships. So I turned to sports. That's where I got my fill. Then sports ended in high school, and I went to college and I got my fill. And then college ended and I'm 21 years old, 22, and I'm fresh into the world and scared shitless. Scared shitless. And it occurred to me probably not until about 25, 26 years old that I need to dismantle these 2.5 decades of conditioning that are keeping me small, that are limiting me. And I need to face the reality of the situation, which is that I feel disconnected from men. I'm afraid to trust a woman. I am so focused on a bigger picture that I'm afraid to really sit with some of the things that are rocking the foundation of my life. And it's my belief that, in order to grow and to expand and to heal, you got to participate in your own rescue. And I didn't know what that meant until I got into leadership and started reading books. And yes, there were people who showed up. I had mentors and I had communities that I would plug into because my soul recognized that something's got to change. And I went through the process of really making peace with all these little pieces that I was afraid to look at. And I went into myself and into those dusty rooms. I call them the homeless places within ourselves, right? And I sat in it. I sat in the pain. I sat in the dishonesty with self. I sat in the inauthenticity. I sat in the disappointment of being me.
And when you say you sat in it, does that imply that previously you were essentially running from it? There was just avoidance?
I was a bullet. It couldn't catch me if it wanted to, And what I realized is that it's exhausting. That life doesn't work. It wasn't working for me. And then I would hear people say, you're such a talented and handsome and just articulate and well-dressed and spoken guy. And I didn't see myself that way. I would look at myself in the mirror and see past myself. And today's that's not the case, And I feel if there are a lot of men that don't choose who they want to be in identity soon enough, So society happily chooses it for them.
Mm.
And I didn't want to be that guy that got lost in the sauce, ended up taking a job and been unhappy, and then take that unhappiness into a relationship and into fatherhood and then to friendship and into every area of my life. I'm like, I want to figure this thing out. I want to know why I'm here. And that question has really driven me since probably about 24 years old. Why am I here? I graduated school. Why am I here? You know? So yeah. Yeah, I can keep going, but I'm gonna just in interest of your question.
Beautiful. Okay, so yeah, I know what you do, but what we're seeing there is, okay, there's some stuff that a bullet I am running from, and maybe there's some things that I'm starting to realize there was an itching in the foundations by the sound of it, and you started to look inward. So I wanna keep going beyond that, but the first thing I want to actually ask you about is, you went into yourself, is what you said. So I understand that on a level, but for the listeners out there, in a pragmatic sense, what does that even mean? What does that look like to go into yourself?
I feel there's like a physical and more grounded definition of that. And then there's a spiritual, right? And I often dance between those two worlds, my human and the divine. And I'm not sure what the beliefs of those who come across this podcast is, but I believe in God. I believe in energy. I believe in the universe. But first and foremost, I believe in God. And my relationship with God has evolved tremendously over the years. With that being said, Mike, I feel being with myself versus being by myself, that distinction changed the game for me. That was taught to me by a mentor of mine. And what it means to be with yourself, it means to sit in the discomfort, sit in the unknowing, sit in the disillusion, sit with the fantasy, sit with the factors, and ask yourself questions, self-inquiry, self-education, and to get clear as to why you are behaving, acting, or treating people in your life a certain way. And to be honest about what is and what is not working. One question that really changed my life in leadership course that I took back in 2015, I was asked such a simple question, but it was in the environment in which it was asked that made all the difference, because environment is everything. But the question was, what do you want? And my response was, well, I don't want to be broke anymore. And I really don't want to deal with people who disrespect me and don't honor me. And I don't want to live alone. I don't want to die without having kids. JuVan, that's a great response, but not to the question I asked you. The question is, what do you want? Have you sat in the energy? Have you sat in the idea of what you do want? Because right now you're really clear on what you don't want, and you're going to attract more of that into your life. And so I think sitting with yourself, sitting in it from a physical standpoint, is asking those questions, is self-inquiry. From a spiritual standpoint, going with, they'll say, if you don't go within, you go without. And I think going within on a spiritual level is me having a conversation with my spiritual anchor, which is God, sitting by the ocean, going for walks in nature, traveling, being, knowing what it means to be alone. And for me, spiritually, there's a difference. If you don't learn how to be alone, you'll only know how to be lonely. And I realized that distinction between being with myself versus by myself is everywhere I go, I take me. And so I've learned to be in relation with me, to joke with me, to play with me, I remember being in a leadership challenge weekend, and they said, for the next 7 days, when you get out the shower, you just sit on the edge of your bed with a bottle of lotion and lotion your entire body. Be with your feet, your ankles, your hands, your everything. And I did this, and for the first time, I actually saw my body, my chest and my belly button and my legs and my kneecaps and my elbows. And I was like, wow, I carry this with me everywhere I go. And I actually saw myself for the first time as a man, because, as we get the shower, we dry off, water still dripping, throw your shirt on and run out the door. As men, it's not normal or common, rather, for men to be with their bodies, we think with our bodies, but to be with our bodies, right? We can be in our feelings and angry and upset and frustrated, but to be with our feelings is to address like, okay, right now I'm angry. I'm angry because this person has challenged my integrity. That's a core value of mine. They're not doing this to hurt me, but they are doing it. And it's really important that I clear the space so that I can have a healthy relationship here. Else this is going to become an inappropriate relationship, and I can damage, and it's going to be pain for both of us because I didn't give voice to what's important to me. To go through that process in your mind, that's emotional intelligence. That's personal responsibility. That's being with yourself. And that has taken me years.
Oh, you didn't just clock it? You're an expert the first time you tried, or?
And I'm still learning. And you know what's supporting me in that process is teaching others. And what I realized more recently, Mike, is that I don't have to be complete to compete. I thought I had to have it together before I coach. I had to have it together before I launched a program, have it together before I do my first retreat. And that's bullshit. The truth is, all I need to do is stay in the practice and be conscious of who I practice with and what I practice on. And if you can get clear on those two things, you can create, be, do, have anything. Not everything, but you can have anything you want. And the beauty is that if you get clear enough, you'll look up and realize that you do have everything.
Very nice. Thank you for sharing that. So, and what I'm really getting there is this distinction between being with and being by yourself. And you know, what's really landing for me there is, you know, we have it's so easy to say, oh, the day and age we live in, the cell phones are everywhere and all that kind of stuff. There's always been things that we've been able to distract ourselves with when we perhaps are by ourselves. But I think the key distinction I'm hearing there is a lot of us spend time by ourselves, but we're not actually there with ourselves. We're distracted. We're in a different place. It might be in our phone. It might be in a different world. It might be even in a book. None of these things are good nor bad, right? It's just, how am I spending that time with myself? And if none of the time alone is with myself, if I'm constantly distracted and in another place, what am I learning? And potentially, as you were saying before, what am I avoiding? What am I running from, right?
One other thing I'll say there that's coming up for me as you're communicating, you know, men go through these periods, they call them midlife crisis, or, post-college traumatic stress. What am I doing? Who am I now? And I think the reason that life can appear or perceived to be heavy for men specifically, in a lot of times, is because we men never take the time to identify what we're carrying. And the way you get clear on what you're carrying is by being with yourself long enough. It's by being willing to listen to your body, your mind, your heart, your gut. When it's talking to you, the body keeps the score. It's always talking to us. And because I have established and am building and developing a relationship with myself, I can listen to what it's saying. You know? Hey, Jay, do you want to get on this podcast and talk butterflies? Of course, I would love to jam with you, Mike. Let's talk. Where do you want to go? What do you want to talk about? You know, hey, Jay, the assistant that you hired, she's asking for to double her salary. And she's the only one we have. We need her. What do we do? Pings in my chest, hands sweating, frustrated, steam coming from my head. All this energy is happening. I'm like, oh, I'm upset. I'm disappointed. I'm discouraged. I feel that my confidence in this person has been compromised. The body's telling us these things. And the more that we listen in, we can create outside of ourselves.
Yeah, beautiful. And so what I'm interested in now is, and certainly for the benefit of everyone, because, you know, I'm hearing these beautiful things and I know these insights, but what has led you to this place, you know, and this place, please expand on us. Like, what are you actually creating in the world? You know, you've spoken about leadership and kind of men's work a little bit. Can you enlighten us on what it is that you're actually doing in the world? And the question I really want to know of that is, why?
I'm here to heal men. And perhaps another way of saying that is to heal man, M-A-N, mankind, man, woman, just man. And I feel when it comes to men, the male species specifically, if you listen closely enough, you'll realize that men today are not working to achieve success anymore. What they're working to achieve is peace. Peace of mind, peace in relationships, peace in their vision, peace within themselves. And in this active pursuit for peace, for inner peace, they're being asked to maintain relationships, sustain careers, provide for families. There's all these expectations that are placed upon the hearts and minds of men, and they interrupt and they delay the achievement of peace within a man. And I feel a strong call to create spaces where men can go to and be able to reframe and work through those narratives, because it's the unhealthy narratives that are essentially creating unnecessary suffering for men. How am I doing that? Through the vehicle that is the Mentor, right? The Mentor is a multinational charitable organization. It's headquartered in Los Angeles. It's also headquartered in Sydney, Australia. Thanks to Mike and Rowan and Shara and the team out there. You guys are phenomenal. And we exist to educate, equip, and empower men and leaders in the mental health space, right? Really to advance mental and emotional well-being for men. And we create content, curate conversations, and we lead very powerful experiences that bring clarifying solutions to those that we serve. And what I feel why I'm doing this is because I was that man who needed exactly what we're pitching, what we're selling, what we're offering. I needed that. And guess what? Today, as I'm traveling the world, Mike, doing this work, well, maybe not during the pandemic, but the last 7 years of like doing this work with men full time, I need it more and more. The more I do it, the more I realize I need this in order to survive. I need this in order to show up as a leader. These spaces are important. There's so many leaders like myself, yourself, across the board who in many ways are leading in isolation and need a space to reframe, to regroup, to reclaim the vision for their lives. And if we had more spaces, I feel that we would have less dysfunctional men in the world, less men who are not showing up to relationships, showing up to the workplace, showing up to the community, to the churches, to the world. And so if I can use my story and my experiences and be vulnerable and authentic and stand in my power as I'm working on a daily basis and put a dent in that conversation, then my job here is done.
Beautiful. So, okay, there's lots that I would love to explore in that. So let's do that. But because, this is certainly what I see, and certainly this podcast is designed, Everyday Legends, it's speaking to men and supporting them and, exploring themselves and what's possible for them. And I certainly see you as a leader of men, as a seer of men, someone who has this huge ability to see to the root of things and, kind of work up from there. And so when you think about, your normal, average Joe, everyday dude, what do you see as kind of the deepest challenges that we are facing? Because of course we are, as you've just shared, we're that guy, we still are in this stuff, you never outgrow it.
Yeah. Well, let me first start with what's possible. Like what I'm working, how I'm working with men and where I see them going. Let's just say, call it a healed man, right? A healed man his presence is felt. When he leaves a room, a part of him doesn't, because he showed up to that space. A healed man, he's living a purpose-driven life. There's something greater than him that he's focused on, that he's pouring his energy and life force into. A healed man is being a contribution to his family, the community, and the world. Maybe not all at the same time, but over the course of his time, his focus is on those three areas. A healed man has established healthy relationships around himself who are mirrors and are guardrails to his ways of thinking and being in the world. A healed man has the ability to access and manage a wide range of emotions, Mike, right? So what do I see? That's what's possible. What do I see? I see a society that does not benefit from healed men. I live within that society. Every day I step out my door, I enter that society. And it saddens me. What I see is men who are underdeveloped because of what they avoid being with. And they're consequently destined to repeat the same behavior and pass that on. I see men who are living in moral crisis, men who don't know who they are, what they want, where they're going. See men who are incubating their insecurities and their wounds, men who don't know where they stand, right? Men who are in search of an identity, purpose, and direction. Men who are gathering, but in false unity. There's not a true essence and a reason behind or depth of relationships, right? And I just see men who are being strangled by a deep-seated fear of inadequacy. My job is to close the gap. How do I do that? I'm teaching men and training others, and in this practice myself, and teaching men how to cultivate a sense of self and identity, right? How to self-educate and then heal that education. How to identify and then deconstruct the unhealthy patterns, the language, the beliefs about themselves and how they see themselves within the context of the world. Teaching men how to strike at the source. I'm a seer of men. Yes, let's strike at the source of whatever you believe your greatest challenge to be. And I really think in essence, in those spaces that we're creating, men are able to face the reality of this situation and have the tools and gumption to monitor their thoughts, their beliefs, and the emotions that are running through them so they can show up. We just want men to show up.
So I've heard you say that a few times. So I want to explore that. What does that mean to show up? Well, certainly through the way that you see it.
I think three things. The first is presence. Presence, a powerful presence requires that we as men be powerfully present. So to show up is to bring all of yourself to the moment, to the space, to the stage, to the dinner, to the meeting, to wherever you are. Presence is important. The second thing for me, I would say, is personal responsibility. You know that you're showing up when you have a strong will to take the responsibility for whatever it is that you're in, right? And then lastly, let me give you a third P. The third P would be purpose. I think when a man is driven by purpose, he's showing up by default. It's just a part of the game. Someone is on purpose by how they show up in a room, how long they stay in that room, what they say when they're in the room or at the table. And I think in short, I would say those are the three things that would really tell me that a man is showing up. If he is present, if he's taking personal responsibility for the part he's playing in whatever he's playing, and he's being driven by a purpose and working on crafting that purpose and tightening it and dusting it off and molding it and making it work for him.
Interesting. Beautiful. And I love that. And so what I'm really getting behind all of those things is intention. Is like living, and you said the word purpose there. What's coming to me is like living on purpose. So when you say presence, but I could say, but I was there. I was sitting in the meeting. And, what's coming back to me there is what you said before around, are you by yourself or are you with yourself? Is your body there? But where's your mind? Where's your intention, right? So you're actually showing up with intention and therefore kind of living purposefully, regardless of if you are bringing, some sense of purpose, you are purposefully living, showing up, taking responsibility, etc. So that intention, I felt it's really powerful that is coming through there.
I'm aligned 100%. Intention is something that, intention is a word that I feel I want to be in an intimate relationship with. Because I feel without that, all areas of life lack meaning. And it's so important to be clear on why you're doing what you're doing, why you're choosing who you're choosing, why you're going where you're going, eating what you're eating, sleeping where you're sleeping, saying what you're saying. It's so important to understand the why behind it.
So then when you I'm putting my head into, because most of the content that I create, and it's kind of what you're talking about before, it's basically for 20-year-old Mike, or uni Mike, as we like to refer to him in my inner circle of my family. I'm trying to think, okay, so he's hearing that, and that sounds exhausting. Well, so hold on, I'm kind of, am I in my head all the time? Am I really thinking about every little thing?
Mm.
Where does that take me when I want to start? Oh, you know what? Maybe I haven't been living with that much intention. Maybe I haven't been showing up as, JuVan is explaining it. Like, I hear that, and these are messages that I get, and I'm sure you get them as well. It's like, I want that, that healed man that JuVan's talking about. I want that. But that sounds a bit exhausting. Where do I even start? How do I get to that? What would you say to that?
Relationships. relationships. You laugh, Mike, right? Like, I'll just say this, speaking candidly or transparently, this is the purpose of the podcast. Like,
Please.
I'm in relationship with you, Mike, because I have a deep love and a bond with you. But even underneath all that, I admire the way you think, the way you process, the heart you bring to each moment. Because I watch how you interact with other people. I've watched and observed your journey from the sidelines on how you've grown as an individual. And you, whether you're aware of it or not, you have set intentions. And I had experienced the outcomes and the results of those intentions. So you get shit done. So because of that, I want to be around get shit doneers. I want to be around result-oriented individuals. So I want what you have. That's why I'm in a relationship with you, right? I want to learn and grow and be challenged by you, right? Oftentimes, like, if you're in the wrong relationships, it can actually disqualify you for what you say you want. If you align with the wrong people, right? Like, people who have no voice or have lost their voice will often invite you to lower yours. I'll say it in a different way. People who have no vision or don't know where they're going will often invite you into their confusion, or into a whole confusion of your own. They'll come into your house and put a little tornado and push you in it and then leave. That shit happens every day. We don't see it as that, but sometimes you gotta go through seasons of where, seasons of silence and seasons of feeling friendless and loveless and lifeless. Like, what is my life right now? So that you can find a spiritual anchor. For you, it may not be God. For you, it may be the ocean. It may be surfing. Whatever it is for you, you got to find that anchor. Relationships are anchors. And when we lose our way, they pull us back home within ourselves. That's the answer. Relationships will only ever always be the answer. The challenge is choosing wisely. Challenge is taking inventory and being clear on when some of your relationships complete themselves. When it's no longer time to be in relationship with certain people. That part.
Oh, that's a challenge.
That part. I've had my dance with that. I'm the president of that club, and I'm also a member of that club. And it's not easy. It's not easy to release and people back to the universe, to wherever they came from. And I think for me, Mike, what I've learned around relationships is the lessons are grand, but the essence is walking away from some relationships. You walk right into everything you've been asking for. And it's not that you leave them, the person, you leave the place. And that distinction, again, going back to distinctions, made a world of difference for me, because I was Captain Save 'em. I wanted to save everybody. My mom, my grandmother, my sisters, friends, employees. I wanted to save everybody. And, that chapter ended. Their role in the story has come to a close. They exit. It's time for them to exit stage right. And so as long as you hold on to them, the curtain can't close. We can't get to the next act. And some people that we're holding on to, they're literally interrupting our growth. And that's a problem.
Yeah. And I think, the other thing, because I've been in this a little bit, we did a podcast recently on loyalty and looking at that, what you're talking about, this old view of loyalty is that, but I know them for quite a long time, so I need to stick by them. And perhaps in doing so, I'm abandoning myself. And as you said, my growth. And I see the immense challenge for a lot of people, for a lot of men in that, because there's this thing with loyalty that really sticks. Almost sticks us to the ground, like, and as you said, that's the place. That's the place. Relationships, the people that we're hanging around with influence us. How are we choosing to be influenced? These are the things that I'm picking up there. And again, being intentional with who we are hanging around with. Now, that doesn't mean if we, step aside, as you said, so the next act can continue, that those people don't ever enter back into our lives again. Sometimes we've got to separate in order to come back together, right? But we can't get to that if we keep clinging to them. Can't get to that if we keep clinging to them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm aligned 100%.
So then one of the things I want to touch on, you were kind of talking about, in fact, before I even get to that, Captain Save Him. I want to address this guy. So I resonate with that. But I want to inquire to you specifically, and I also know that you have therefore lived this experience, but you've seen it and you supported me in this. This is everything that we're talking about. Mm-hmm. What was the intention behind Captain Save Him? What was he about? Why was he taking on that mantle of I'll save everyone?
Well, for me, I was a captain of wounded women, powerful women. But deep down, they were wounded, and the closer I got to them, I realized that their problems were too big for me to handle. And so it was this vicious cycle of seeing them, spotting them in the crowd, approaching them, proposing this grand plan, because I'm Mr. Enroller. I have a grand vision of what's possible. And then as I got closer to see them, who they are, and how much they're actually fighting for their limitations and not the life that they want, I throw my hands up in disappointment and discouragement, because now they didn't allow me to save them the way that I know that I could. And they are not participating in this rescue. And then I make them wrong and bad. And what I was doing is really trying to heal the relationship with my mother, because the first wounded woman I ever met was her. And that's a tough conversation to have, and still trying to heal her, find creative ways. Today, I'm learning how to love her. And I love her with all my heart. Without her, I wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be on this podcast right now. And she made some really powerful choices. One was to have me. And I'm thankful for that. And although she's not who I need her to be anymore, she is here. And she's on her own journey. And I get to respect that. And the deeper I create a connection in that bond, the less saving I have felt I needed to do when it comes to my relationship with women. And that has made all the difference. I think the key for me is the more generously I listen to myself, the more gradually I heal. And I feel like my healing has been exponential, because I have done the one thing that most people don't do, and that's listen. Listen.
And you say that in regards to yourself and when it comes to being in relationship to others?
Yeah, both.
I mean, what you're talking about before with being with yourself, essentially was all about listening, right? Mm-hmm. As you said, your gut, your head, your heart, what's it all saying to your body? Beautiful. So then, what I'm also hearing in there is that relationship to your mother and this wanting to save. And so this is another part, I think, that's so evident in so many men, and it's something I see in you. I think it's very easy to see this this man of immense power, of immense intellect, this huge heart, but there is also this light, playful side, and it's very present. I see it. I see this all the time, and in that I see this the boy JuVan, this dude who wants to connect and play and wants to love and be loved. So I'm interested to ask you, what's your relationship to this side of you?
The fun side for me, historically, having fun and being in my feminine led to bullying, abuse, and abandonment. So I'm working on and working through the paradigms around fun and around playfulness and being childlike. It's definitely a dance for me. And I think again, going back to relationships, I think I identify people who are fun loving and are playful and maybe not the most grounded individuals, or just come from pure heart. You know, I think of people like Rowan. Rowan is like pure heart. Rowan is just the little boy I wish I grew up with in the neighborhood. You know, he's someone who is always smiling and blushing and joking, and he's tactile, and those things exist within me. And being in a relationship with him, it brings it out. He extracts that essence from me, but it doesn't come naturally for me. And I'm working through that. I'm working through the wounds. I'm working through the trauma. And I think it's important to even give voice to now, Mike, is like, you don't have to be complete to compete. I want to go back to that, you know, because that saying has been so resonant for me. And I was talking to someone and it just kind of blurted out my mouth. You know me, and I love my power statements, or a good idiom or a quote or some alliteration. I love words. But it came out and I was just like, man, that applies to everything. And so fun and playfulness is something I'm working on. I'm working on that right now. You know, as a 32-year-old man, I'm working on that because I know when fatherhood does come knocking for me, I want to be remembered as that. I want to be remembered as a playful, fun-loving, charismatic dad to my children and partner. So I'm definitely working through that right now.
Very nice. So then now in the work that you do, how do you see this playing out in the lives of, you know, everyday men? This relationship to the little boy, you know, not necessarily the playful side, but you spoke about wounding and that stuff in there. Like, how does this play out?
Yeah, I'm reminded in this moment of a statement that a lot of kids hear when you're in school, in primary school, and you know, mom often says it, you know, until you do your homework, you can't go out and play. And a lot of men are not doing their homework. Homework being the heart work, being the awareness, being the trauma. And because we're not doing our homework, we're not playing. We don't have time and space to go out and play. We don't have the finances to create experiences for our family, loved ones, and friends. We don't have the energy beyond all our commitments to create, be a fun person. And how I see it playing out with men is that men don't have a place to go to nor come from. That's why the mentorship, that's why I created the mentor. That's why it started. And that's why we're working so feverishly to build and expand this company and create brick and mortar, you know, campuses where these things can be taught, like, you know, and to give men an opportunity to continue their education, their emotional education, right? This is something that you talk about as well. It's so important. We want to put these men in a position where they can expand, where they can grow, where they can be challenged and reach all spectrums of what it means to be not a man, but the man. Another distinction. Those words make a big difference, you know,
big difference.
Like, big difference.
Yeah. What do you mean by that distinction? D-man instead of A-man.
Well, A-man means that it's singular. It's boxed in. There's not room or space for error, or room or space to create, or for, you know, for pivoting, or for play, really. Yeah. But to be the man, communicates possibility. It's expansive. It's opportunity exists in the, right?
Yeah.
What comes after the? It's grand, it's colorful, there's layers to it. And I think the difference between being a man and boxing me in and being the man that I desire to be, or I think I am, or I'm working on or towards, is the room that men are looking for right now.
Yeah.
That's
beautiful.
Is what men are looking for.
Yeah. And what I'm hearing there is like a man, it allows for no individuality, and there's a full stop at the end of that. As you say, with the man, there's opportunity at the end of that. And it's actually brings in our individuality, because of course, if we tried to get everyone to be the same, we would have a very bland world full of robots, which we already know. Beautiful. I love that distinction. And there was something else that came up for me there in, you know, if you don't do your homework, you can't go out and play. And this was perhaps what I'm seeing, and I'd love to get your take on this. As you said, you know, we're not doing the hard work so we can then. And it looks like to me, what so many men are doing is that they've actually taken that line, whether or not they heard it in the home, but the idea of it, and they're still running it literally. I need to work, I need to work, I need to work, I need to provide, I need to do all of these things. And that is, you know, perhaps looking busy and looking successful and so on, before I can then stop and play and enjoy my life, you know, smell the roses, right? I got to keep working. I got to keep working. I need to put that side of me aside and keep working before I can go out and play, before I can come in and play, perhaps.
Absolutely. You know, as you're talking, I was thinking, you know, I was on a call recently with somebody who I absolutely adore and I love, a friend of mine up in Canada. And we have a call on a bi-weekly basis where we check in with each other just to see where we are in life and our journey and hold space for each other. And he says, JuVan, I was asked a question recently that rocked my boat and I want to share the question with you. And I said, well, what is it? And he goes, someone asked me, what is it like to be on the other side of you? In essence, what is it like to be in a relationship with you? For others, for someone else, to be on the other side of you, to sit across the table from you, or in a relationship with you, and to work for you. And it was one of those moments. And I had to sit with that. And while I still haven't debunked that, what I can say is it's much healthier today than it was yesterday.
Yeah.
That is much more open today than it was yesterday. Much more aware than I was yesterday. Because I know that I'm in my process, I'm honoring that process, and I'm also making an effort to stay in the practice of everything I'm teaching and inviting people into. I think that's the key thing. There are a lot of leaders who are preaching it and teaching it, but not reaching it themselves, reaching for those things. And a part of leadership is really understanding that it's all a journey. And I didn't know that in the beginning. I didn't see that in the beginning. And I believe I damaged a lot of relationships because of that. And I dropped a lot of balls and missed a lot of opportunities because I wasn't present, aware, and intentional. Today, that's not the story I'm telling. I'm very proud of who I'm becoming. Not so much focused as who I am right now, but it's my becoming that I'm pouring so much energy, effort into, because I want to know that I'm using the gifts and talents that exist within me, and that I am using the time, energy, effort, my skills, my body, my mind, my beauty, everything to the benefit of building humanity. That's why we're here. We're here to be in contribution, to serve. And if I'm not doing that, I feel it because I'm listening to my body. Like I'm off. I'm off. You know, I'm way too moody. I'm aggravated. I'm way too bossy. I'm way too ego-driven in this moment. I'm not in service. I'm not in contribution. I'm not present. I'm not intentional. I'm not listening.
Yeah.
I gotta be responsible for that. That's not easy to say those things to yourself, let alone hear them from somebody else.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is the honesty I think that you've been talking about throughout all of this. Certainly, you know, from the very get-go, there was that visual of the piece of paper with truth written on it, and exploring into that. And where I want to take that is, you know, you've shared a few different things there that you've been exploring and working on and you know, diving in to understand. And I also saw you speak on one of these a little bit recently, and it was in a post that you made, because what I'm hearing in all of this, being with yourself, is intimacy. And I saw you share a post around, you know, along the lines of a realization perhaps of chasing intimacy. So I'd love for you to kind of expand on that. Like, what was going on for you there? What's the realization? And perhaps is there any learnings that you can share out of it?
How much time we got left? I don't know. We have to do a part 2 here.
We'll go 24 hours live.
We have to do a part 2 here, Mike. Okay, so what I was sharing, the context, to give some context to those who are
Please.
listening, is my lifestyle the last 7 years has been, has consisted of international travel, leading events, retreats, dinners, has been coaching one-on-one, working with, culture icons, celebrities, athletes, everyday men. It's been a blend of like shooting content in different beaches of the world and meeting incredible people and having deep, meaningful conversations. It's been so colorful for me in the last 7 years. And I'm so thankful and grateful for those experiences. And also, I want to thank me for the sacrifices that I made in order to be there. A lot was missed out. I missed a lot of birthdays. I missed a lot of holidays. I missed a lot of time with family, very special moments. And I sacrificed for my vision, as you do. What I realized now, being in the middle of a pandemic for the last 7.5 months, the conclusion I'm coming to is that the lifestyle I created was so that I could have intimacy in my life. And now that I don't have the travel, the events, the dinners, the photo shoots, video shoots, and I'm sitting with myself again in a different way, it feels like in some ways for the first time, I'm realizing how much I need and crave intimacy. But the fact that I was chasing it and I wasn't becoming the space for those things to come to me. And I was working so hard for it. And now I think, what is my relationship with intimacy? What is intimacy to me? How much of it do I require in order to be functional? How much do I require in order to thrive? And I'm having to sit with these questions. And what I do know, I can't quote the individual who said this. I think his name leaves me in this moment, but all failures in ethics and in integrity are first failures in intimacy, because we don't have people in our lives who can hold us accountable, who can hold us high, who can hold us physically. And what happens is we turn to unhealthy ways of being, thinking, and we formulate things like inappropriate relationships, or we find ourselves in a situationship bringing pain to someone because we didn't do the work before entering that union. And so what I'm realizing about myself right now is that I get to reframe my relationship with intimacy, and I get to get clear so that I don't hurt anyone in the process of healing myself. That's personal responsibility. That's presence, right? That's purpose. And it's not easy. It's uncomfortable. It's frustrating. I'm tired. I'm emotional. I'm moody. It's taking too fucking long. It's a lot. It's requiring all of me. And it's necessary. So it doesn't matter. And it's necessary. Period. The buck stops there. So I'm doing what I need to do. I'm being called into a next level of learning and of listening to myself, to God. And I'm up for the challenge. That's why I'm here. And I'm having my moments in the middle of it. I'm having a lot of moments, not a moment, it's a moment. Because it's some fancy, it's some things that we just ain't ready for. A lot of curveballs in the growth process, but it's worth it because eventually you hit a home run. It only takes one home run for you to change everything.
Yeah, very nice. And there's that intimacy, to me, feels like this word that we get to explore. Because as men, I think we want it, but perhaps we've often been sold a story that we've quite easily lapped up of intimacy is very simple. It's narrow. It involves one other person. Perhaps you create a long-term relationship with that person, and that's where all of your intimacy comes from, and that's where you go to get it, right? But what I'm hearing from you is there's a lot more to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Intimacy brings healing. I think that's why I want it so bad. I have this deep desire to heal me. I feel like I've been given chances in the past. I've definitely been in the world before and in this space before. And I think what I'm learning right now is that healing is predicated on exquisite honesty, Mike. And part of the human experience is lying to yourself. Liars don't heal. part of the human experience is the discomfort of not knowing, you know,
Mm-hmm.
the comfort of change, the discomfort of evolution,
Yeah.
of letting go, of surrender. And I think why I say relationships are always the answer is because they support me in my process of deepening my honesty with myself. And the more honest I can be with me, the deeper my healing will be. That's what I want from me.
Mm.
I don't want to become a father and a partner, husband, and pass on my pain and pass on my wounds in place of my wisdom or in lieu of my wisdom.
Mm.
And that's what I see happening. Those are the men that I'm serving. And I'm like, man, do you realize how many people you're hurting by not just getting this, figuring this out?
Mm.
Do you realize how many people you're pushing away, how many opportunities you're blocking? Do you realize how much this one thing is taking up space in your life? And through those conversations, there's healing that exists for me too. So I feel very fortunate to be in this work, to be leading the charge that I'm leading, to be in relationship with those I'm in relationship with, to be willing to be vulnerable and to work on being authentic so that I can stand in my power. And ultimately, I think I want to make God proud, you know, when I make my way back home, whenever that is, however that looks like,
Mm-hmm.
I want to, you know, take off my jersey, set it aside and say, I gave it all I had. I gave it all I had. And I hope I get to play again.
Mm-hmm.
You know, hope I get to play again. But if not, if this is my last game, I gave it all I had.
Beautiful. Thank you. And there's one thing that I'm hearing in a lot of that, and you did mention it towards the start, and that is this word integrity. You know, for me, that's like a perhaps not so secret mission. And when it comes to my work and this podcast as well. So I want to, you know, throw to you, what do you see integrity as? What does that mean? What does it look like?
Mm. Integrity for me is being able to count on yourself. I think that's the essence of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I can count on me, then others can count on me. If others can count on me, then we can create and grow and expand and build. And if we can do all those things, then we can create impact. And if we can create impact, you know, that's legacy.
Mm.
Legacy, leaving something behind, or living something from one moment to the next. That's the greatest healing of all. We've all, at some point in our life, have done something for somebody who maybe couldn't do it for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And the feeling, the joy, that moment we just cherish for 30 seconds or 5 minutes, like I get to feel it a lot, almost daily. You get to feel that quite a bit with clients because you're in the service industry. And I feel being in integrity, for me, it really means being able to count on me. And that, I think, for men is one of the greatest challenges, being able to count on themselves.
Yeah, I think what comes into my mind straight away is that word honesty that you were just talking about, right? Because that means you have to be honest with yourself.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of men have challenges counting on themselves because they were raised by people they couldn't count on. They were raised under the context that they had to mother and father themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And there are prices that come with that. And they're so caught up in the trauma of all the consequences that come with that they never really truly get to transform. They never really truly get to be clear on who they are or answer the question of what they want, or, you know, be present in a moment because their mind is always imprisoned by the past or the future. And presence is the greatest gift, as we have all heard. But for me, integrity, Mike, is really being able to count on me. And what I can say is I can count on me more today than ever. And I trust, hope, and believe that that relationship will continue to build. And I know that it will, deep down inside, by being in relationship with people like you. And I know that being in relationship with others in healthy relationships, rather, is what makes the world go around, is what makes people achieve success and have great breakthroughs in their life and business. So that's very much a part of the fabric of what I'm creating in the world. It's why I'm here. It's who I am, and very much a part of the mission that is the mentor.
Beautiful. Thank you for all of that. I think this is a perfect little time for us to step off. And as you said, we could keep talking about all of this stuff, and I'm sure there will be plenty more of these conversations. So, okay, here's an opportunity to give us a little bit of a plug, perhaps some of the specifics of the mentor, what you're creating, and where people can find you, please.
Absolutely. So the Mentor is a multinational travel organization based in Los Angeles, California, and Sydney, Australia. And we exist to equip and educate and empower leaders of men and also men around the world globally. We're so excited to be a global voice in this conversation. And you can find us online at thementor.com and also thementor.com.au, as well as on Instagram at thementor. To find out more information, we get tons of things that'll be launching here in the new year: online academies, retreats, experiences, both virtual and in person, and tons of support coming to the community. We're so thankful to be here. And Mike, I just want to conclude this by honoring you and acknowledging you for being a partner in transformation, for being a leader, now a father. You're a father, Mike, and a phenomenal husband. And I just want to acknowledge you for doing the work, so much work, before bringing a life into this world, and for being a man that is worthy of being not only looked up to, but into for wisdom, guidance, and direction. It means the world. Our relationship means the world to me. I love you dearly and deeply, and I'm excited to see how this podcast takes the world by storm.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate that. And look, I mirror those things straight back to you. You know, it's been an amazing friendship to be in and foster. And, you know, when you speak about, well, certainly for those who don't know, you know, we almost lived together for the back 6 months of last year as we created Manifest with a group of other people, but it was very much a lot of time together, you and I, and it was such a joy. And also, you know, one of the things that popped straight into my head is, you know, the moment that I received a phone call from Nadia, and my gut told me there was something else about that call. You might remember I got up from the room and I left the room. And then I came back and I had this like stunned mullet, I think is the term, look on my face. And you're like, are you right, bro? And I was just like, Nadia's pregnant. And so, you know, there was this whole other level of intimacy there in that moment and in our friendship, but also it was the space that you were able to provide for me in that moment of like processing what the fuck. Yeah. And that speaks to you and your heart and your generosity and your presence and your power. And I appreciate that in you and in our friendship. And I just want to thank you again so much for coming on to this podcast. Brother, a joy to have you here. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it, brother. Love you.
You've been listening to the Everyday Legends podcast, the show dedicated to helping everyday men build legendary relationships with yourself, with your partners, and in your world. If you have got something from this podcast, please share it with someone that you think could benefit from it. And please visit your home for podcasts. Like us, subscribe to us, leave us a review. Your feedback is phenomenal in getting this in front of more eyes and ears. Until next time, I'm Mike Campbell, and remember to build that legendary